Yesterday, a federal district court in Kentucky issued a decision blocking the outgoing Biden administration's unlawful attempt to change the meaning of sex in Title IX of the Civil Rights Act to include gender identity. Now, Title IX is a federal law designed to create equal opportunities for women in education and athletics. We touched on this briefly yesterday, but we want to get a legal perspective today. So here to discuss the ruling in the state of Tennessee versus Cardona is Matt Sharp. He's a senior counsel and the director of the Center for Public Policy at Alliance Defending Freedom. ADF attorneys represent a West Virginia high school female athlete and the Christian Educators Association International in the lawsuit alongside the state of Tennessee. Matt, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Well, give us your rundown of this ruling and what it means.
Well, this was a colossal ruling. We've had several courts across the country that have issued a preliminary injunction against the Biden administration's unlawful Title IX rule, this rule that impacts women's privacy, safety, fairness in sports. But what the Kentucky court did for the first time is actually vacate this rule. That means it's essentially wiped off the books nationwide. So whether you're in a red state, blue state, no matter where you are, the Biden administration and any future administrations cannot use this rule to try and force a school or college to allow men and girls locker rooms, restrooms on women's teams, or violate any other rights to free speech or parental rights.
How do you expect life to be different now post this decision?
Well, you think back, 2016 is when this whole battle first started. We had the Obama administration issue this Dear Colleague letter trying to rewrite Title IX to include gender identity. So we've had these ups and downs that all culminated with earlier this year, the Biden administration pushing this Title IX rule. So across the country, we've had parents, female athletes, and others reach out saying, our school's telling us they have to allow a boy in my girl's locker room, in the restroom, on even overnight school trips. And everybody kept pointing to this rule and to what the Biden administration was doing. So this federal court ruling, wiping the rule away, is going to really take the government's boot off the neck of schools across the country and make sure that they're doing good policies that protect privacy, that protect speech and parental rights, rather than undermining those important constitutional rights.
I know that's very encouraging news to a lot of people who are watching and listening to our conversation, who have been, dazed and confused by the developments over the last 4 years in particular. But Matt, this is one lawsuit involving Title IX, where we got this good decision, but there are many more. How do you expect this decision out of Kentucky to impact all of the other litigation around Title IX?
Well, as I mentioned, when this rule dropped, Alliance Defending Freedom, we filed 5 different lawsuits across the country on behalf of students, teachers, even school districts challenging this rule. And so far, every single one of those courts in our cases has issued a preliminary injunction, but it's been limited. It's only applied to the specific states involved, the specific school districts involved. So this ruling, number one, makes a difference because it has that nationwide application. But second, because this is the first time the court has actually said, we're going to vacate the rule, we determined that the Biden administration didn't have the authority to do this, that as the court described, it actually flies in the face and turns Title IX on its head to try and say that a man can be a woman and have access to women's spaces and opportunities. So we think this is sound ruling. What we hope to see is that in those other court cases I mentioned, the 4 other court cases that have been going through the process, that those courts are going to adopt this same ruling. And so that we end up with court after court after court consistently ruling that this is unlawful, the administration doesn't have the authority to do it. What the next step is, though, is while this takes the federal government's out of the rule, while it takes it away from the pressure on schools, we still have a lot of states that are adopting bad policies. So you have like the situation in Connecticut where they, as a state, have adopted a policy saying men should participate in women's sports. So the next step is taking this same reasoning that Title IX doesn't require this and that it could actually violate Title IX to put men on women's teams and take that into states that are adopting bad local or statewide policies. So we've got a big victory at the federal level. We've still got work to do at the state level to go any place where they're trying to undermine privacy, safety, or fairness in sports and challenge those policies as well.
That's a good reminder. Matt, Why is this case different in the ruling? You mentioned the other cases where there were favorable results, but they were limited to the circumstances of that case in a preliminary injunction. But in this case, the judge made a much broader decision. Is that because the facts in this case were different, or the judge just saw the situation differently?
Well, it's actually because this is what all of these cases were working towards. Every one of them, we were asking the courts that are involved to vacate this rule, to wipe it off the books so that it couldn't be applied anywhere. The court so far had not reached that final determination. So this Kentucky case was the first one to sort of go to the finish line, to look at all of the facts, look at all of the evidence, look at all of the arguments, and properly determine that if you look at Title IX and its original intent, that the goal there was to ensure women had equal opportunities in athletics and education, that original intent was completely undermined by what the Biden administration was doing with this rule. So this is really the culmination of all of those cases. Every one of those other ones, this is what we're asking for as well. And so we hope those courts will follow suit and reach the exact same outcome. But again, the big part of this is it is a nationwide ruling. No matter where you live, the Title IX rule cannot be enforced against you.
That is great news. Matt, very quickly in our remaining seconds, because we are seeing a change in administration, do you expect this decision to be appealed?
But we hope not. We've only got a few days left in the Biden administration. We fully expect and hope the Trump administration will not appeal this and, in fact, start taking steps to enact better rules that protect women's privacy and safety and equal opportunities in sports.
Matt Sharp, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.